Hello and welcome back to my channel. I want to apologize for my last video. It wasn't very like fun and interactive, so it kind of got boring. I watched it myself and I kind of actually fell asleep watching it. Um, so the information there was decent, but the interactivity and the showing of detailed diagrams and stuff wasn't. So what I felt like I would do today instead is kind of remake that video, but show you in a in-game setting slightly of like how to play goats in detail and little tips and tricks that you can do to like actually maximize the amount of potential you can get from goats. Um, so obviously let's go with the first fight. So first fights, most Reinhardts will charge out of spawn, or if you don't charge out of spawn, you're basically throwing, in my opinion, because you have to use a speed boost. And then you can't fight for a good 4 seconds to begin with. So both Reinhardts will run out of spawn, and they'll take map control. So most Reinhardts will be here and the rest of the team will be just behind them. So the reason why you charge out of spawn is, again, map control. If one Reinhardt charges out of spawn and one doesn't, look at how far away the Reinhardt is in terms of difference. And then Reinhardt will probably be on the point bar. He's up here. He can see where they are, and maybe if his team's close enough, he can call for a faster engage. So make sure that your Reinhardt's charging out of spawn, because it gives you that little bit of an advantage in terms of, well, it's an even footing if the other Reinhardt does it. But if the other Reinhardt doesn't charge out of spawn, it gives you that little bit of an advantage, because if they're in that situation here, they could be like, hey, they're not on point yet, we could speed up. And then obviously you could just speed in and take the control. But yeah, let's just go with like an even footing. Everyone's on the same page. Everyone's in the same position of how to play like goats, like how to punish the enemy team, how to punish CD usages and stuff like that. So let's just say they're in this position right now. They're in like a Mexican standoff sort of style, right? So everyone's just like poking, trying to force the enemy team to do something. So most Reinhardts will just start swinging at this point, like trying to bait Zarya bubbles. But the whole point of goats is it's around CD based, right? So it's either you go in or you don't go in. There's no half measures. So what I'm talking about is, if this Reinhardt walks up and Zarya gives bubble, uh, this blue team will lose, because most teams will be like, oh, they use Zarya bubble. We're gonna go in on their Reinhardt because they don't have any defensives, and then they'll just speed boost in and they will kill the Reinhardt, because again they've lost the Zarya bubble. So what most teams will try to do is, in my opinion, is if you use your Zarya bubble, you are going all in. Like, there's no if or but about it. If you don't go in with a Zarya bubble and you don't get any value from the Zarya bubble, you're probably going to lose the fight. So what I mean by that is, if your Reinhardt says, okay, I want to go in, and then you just speed boost in, you bubble him as he starts. Obviously, the Brig's going to try and stun him to stop him from coming in. And then you stun, and then you just play aggressive, push them back down into the choke, because most teams' natural reaction to being pushed is to fall backwards. So if you push them back down, like this is the point where you don't necessarily have to get kills, you have to get a reaction from them. So what I mean by getting value from a CD is getting one of two things: a kill or map control. Now, what does this Reinhardt, the blue Reinhardt, do in this situation? What does he gain from playing aggressive here? So if he's the first person to push, his supports are going to fall backwards, right? So they're going to go down the stairs. Then everyone else is going to back up slowly. In my opinion, this is the wrong way to play goats. You shouldn't be backing up. Like, if you give up map control, you're as well as losing the fight, because now the enemy team can control this choke, and now you have to use all of your resources just to get through that choke to actually have a fight. And that's where it comes into like high risk, high reward, because to push that choke, you can't half-heartedly go in. You can't like walk up without no Zarya bubble. You can't walk up without Brig. You can't walk up without Zarya. You can't walk up without D.Va. Because what's going to happen? They're just going to stun you as you come in, and you're probably going to die. Reinhardt shouldn't be pinning on this, in my opinion, because you can get punished too easily. I think if you were going to go for a pin, you would need to know 100% certain that they don't have Earth Shatter. Secondly, that you 100% have Zarya bubble, and thirdly, that it's a really short pin. So I'd say from like here to here is like decent. But again, you have to make sure that you actually hit the pin, because if you don't, it's probably going to be a counter pin, and your Reinhardt's probably dead because by that time the Zarya bubble is gone. So once you've got in this position, what should you be looking to do? Well, obviously you want to try and keep your supports as far away from the fight as possible whilst them still being effective. So this is where playing around LOS is actually really good. So this positioning right here from blue team, all holding like this left side portion of the point where the Reinhardt is positioned. Now if the Reinhardt was positioned on this side, I would just say you basically just flip it. A lot of teams, especially my team, they do a lot of oh, our Reinhardt's controlling left side. I can't get any poke at this side, so I'm just going to peek the other side. That's how you get punished. So what I'm saying by that is, your Reinhardt standing here, Zarya wants to wide peek or something, and she does a lot. She does a lot of damage. The problem is she used her bubble to commit, and she could probably get punished from this because they see, oh, Zarya has no bubble. She's out of position. Let's speed in and kill her, and then you're down to Zarya, which is, in my opinion, the highest, the second highest DPS on your team. Disregarding Reinhardt. If Reinhardt's allowed to just do what he wants, he's probably the highest DPS, in my opinion, especially in GOATs because of how close together people are, and his hammers in AoE. So yeah, Zarya is the second highest DPS. So if I was red team, what would I do? Well, one, I would wait for cooldowns. Like I would just give up map. Like if I've already given up map control, I would just say, look, give it to them, give it to them, give it to them, give it to them. And I would wait for cooldowns, and then I would legit try to pressure them to use something. Like I would walk up with Reinhardt, keeping my brig as close to me as possible. Walk up with Reinhardt, see if I can swing a little bit, try and force some stuff. I wouldn't use brig stun, because if you use brig stun in this situation when you're retaking before you engage, your brig's gonna stun. She's gonna hit their Reinhardt, they're gonna bubble it, but then your brig's gonna get stunned too, and then you're probably gonna lose the fight. So it's important about knowing what CDs you can use on a defensive team and what CDs you can use on the attacking team to get maximum value from that. So again, if I was in this situation, go hard or go home. If you want to get through a choke, you need to use everything. If you want to get through a choke, you need to have a target focus beforehand. And if you have the time and the enemy team lets you do stuff, you can bait resources. Like, for example, if you start swinging on the Reinhardt and your Reinhardt gets low, he might call, I'm low, and Zarya might panic into bubbling him. And that's your go time. That's when you say, okay, we're going all in now. This is where the Reinhardt macro calling comes in. He can call CDs used, and then you can guys play aggressive. Also, another thing a lot of teams can do is, if you bait the Zarya bubble onto Reinhardt, you can all in the brig. It really depends on the positioning of the enemy team, but these are things that you can really do. So let's just say, let's just talk about. So the first fight is basically all about map control. Who can control chokes? Who can force the CDs more efficiently? And who can pull the trigger fast enough onto said target? Basically, it's a MOBA. Who can manage their cooldowns better, and who can use them more efficiently? So let's just say the blue team won, right? Let's just say the blue team won. Red team are resetting. Right, so they're coming back in. Let's just put them all back here so they can actually just like fully on reset. So what should the blue team be looking for? So one thing, I think they should have a scout. The reason why they should have a scout is because, as I said on this map, particularly on this map, it's all about choke control, and it's all about the information that you gain from the enemy team as to where you can set up. Because think of how many places they can come from in this map. They can come through this way, they can come through this way, they can come through under, and they can also come from upper, and also this way, and also upper from that way too. So why do you need scouting? Well, the reason why you need scouting is so that you can position yourself to control the choke efficiently, to make sure that they have to use resources to get through that choke. Because most teams will be like, oh, let's just turn around. Oh, they're going under. Let's just turn around and hold here. No, this is not good enough. Like if their team guns this, let's just use Reinhardt as the whole team example, so I have to drag everyone around. If they are allowed to walk up this choke for free, you are doing something wrong. Like you need to be controlling these chokes. So what I mean by that is, if you see, so say for example, your D.Va scouting here and you say, oh, they're going under, do not use speed amp at this time. If you've given up, if they're already up this choke, do not panic. You can take an early fight, like you might be able to surprise them with it, but remember your D.Va isn't there, so you don't have that, like, I wouldn't say she's bursty, but she has a higher DPS than most. So if you see they're going under, you should just walk over and control the choke. Make sure that you don't give them any free map control for nothing. Like you have to force them to use something, whether that be Zarya Bubble, whether that be Bash, whether that be Ryan's shield itself. Don't give them anything for free. Now, well, why didn't you just say, "Oh, go high ground. There's no choke there. You can just drop down on the floor." But that's the thing. That's the thing that comes into importance with about scouting, right? So let's just say red team lost the first fight, right? They'll go high ground. And our Zarya was amazing that fight, and she built up Grav because she got really greedy for charge, and she managed to build it up. If the Diva then scouts, hey, they're going high ground, what can your Zarya do? She can walk under, or another thing you could do is Brig could go under and Zarya could stay up. Brig could solely focus on stunning the Diva, and you could Grav, or you could just do this. But the problem with this is it's also like high risk, high reward, because if their team turns around, you guys need to be ready to engage on them to then not let them just kill your Zarya and then fully reset. Um, this is the risk you take when going high ground because you can't see what's beneath you, but like down the stairs. Obviously this comes down to like scouting above. Oh, we don't see Zarya. Where could she be? And if you don't see the Zarya from this position, you could just speed boost and go back through main. Well, you don't. Okay, so here's the thing about speed boost. If you use a speed boost to reposition, you have to make sure you don't take a fight within that time frame because if you do, you're probably going to lose because the whole reason Ghost is so good is because it's allowed to do a lot of DPS, a lot of aggro plays, and it's about CD management, as I said. So using speed boost to reposition is really unless you can control a choke with the speed boost, I would say it's very risky because say for example if you use a speed boost just to reposition to main and they just walk, they know, hey, they don't have speed boost, we can engage, and they can probably just kill you straight down or not let you have the choke. Um, most teams will probably just engage as soon as you don't have a speed boost because you can't kite, which is good. But then the problem is you have to make sure that you burst one target down because if you split targets when they don't have speed boost, they're probably just going to win because they have obviously the choke that you're running into. So about ultimates, I talked a little bit about this, and obviously it comes down to like synergy and how well you are together, and obviously baiting the resources that you need to bait. So if you have Graviton Diva Bomb, I see a lot of Zaryas get the Diva Bombs eaten, just due to the fact that they're either one impatient or two they don't ask for resources. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean Brig. Like Brig is the most overpowered champion I've ever seen in my life because she can do so much. So, what do I mean by asking break? Well, if you see Diva, like say for example, they're like half committing like this. I don't know, Diva's closer to the Reinhardt. Hey, you can say, hey, I see Diva, can we go? And then you just speed into the Diva. The break calls stunned. Like obviously by this time your team should have chemistry of like Diva is the target, so she is quote unquote stunned, and then you just press Q on the grab, and then you get them all bundled up. There is no defense matrix. The only problem with doing these plays is the fact that they have Zarya bubbles. This is where my team did this a little bit too. Is my team kind of like grabbed, threw the Diva bomb, and watched them because they thought, oh, it's easy, we just got the bomb down. But no, they still have Zarya bubbles, so you have to keep the constant pressure up. You have to keep swinging in there with Reinhardt. You have to keep obviously spamming with Brig and spamming with Zarya because you want to burst those bubbles as soon as they come up so that they don't get value. Another thing is obviously they can block it with trance. But again, this is a risk that you take in terms of like MOBA versus MOBA sort of strat where it's all CD based. Um, Another thing Brig can do is a stun shatter, as everyone has probably already known by now. You could just swing, bait the Zarya bubble, and then pull the trigger. Or you could set up your Brig in a cheeky location where the Reinhardt isn't expecting you. So say for example, if they're retaking, this is kind of like the 101 sort of strat. So I wouldn't recommend doing this anymore because everyone probably checks it, and if your Brig gets caught there, she's probably gonna die. Um, so your Brig would hide here, they'd walk in through main, sometimes they don't check, your Reinhardt walks closer. Now, here's the indication that someone is doing something cheesy. One, you don't see Brig, and two, the Reinhardt is giving up a choke to push into you. This is another thing I would say that Goat should never do. You should never give up a choke to walk into the enemy team unless you have a preset. Whether that be grab, whether that be Diva Bomb, aggressive, whether that be a Brig stun as I'm talking about. Like this choke, this choke, this choke, this choke. These three and this one, this one, this one, this one. Like all. You get the picture. Like these chokes should not be given up for free. Goats is all about maintaining point and punishing them for them not having the choke. Um, to make sure that you're abusing the choke in goats. A lot of teams don't really play around the choke, and it's really frustrating to see them like have map control, have everything in their disposal, and then they give up the choke, fight into their choke. And what I mean by fighting into their choke is, say for example, we want to play aggressive, right? This is a choke, and this is a choke. What I mean by that is some teams will be like, oh, I have this, I have this, I have this. Let's just go, let's just go, let's just go. They'll speed boost into the enemy team. They'll back up. You're fighting into their choke now, and then all of a sudden the fight is completely lost because you're fighting into their choke. You're not paying attention to that, and you're using CDs before you even get into that fight. Um, or they're just poorly using the CDs, and then they get punished for it. So yeah, controlling a choke is a lot more beneficial for a goats team than it is for anything else, in my opinion. Um, So as I said about the ults, I've talked about like the first fight. Let's talk about like how you would kind of like retake. So I would say that retaking as an attacking team, that taking the 1 second, let me just drag all this back. Uh, let's talk about actually positioning too, also while we're on this subject too. So the Zenya, everyone needs to be on the same side as the Reinhardt, right? Because obviously you don't want to give them free opportunities, you don't want to give them free picks. They still have a Zen projectile, so your Zen and Lucio are still at risk of dying to random stuff. So if I was the red team, the best place to retake, in my opinion, is underground. The reason why is because one, most teams don't control the staircase because the thing is not worth controlling. And secondly, if you do get past the staircase, you have 1, 2, 3 chokes to go through, all within short distance of each other. So you can actually get away with like really hard engaging and then people getting split because you can run around the sides or you can get access to the back line or you can all focus the same target still without being like walled off, shall we say. So let's just say they give them the high ground for free. This is where you need to start thinking about pulling the trigger, right? So when you get closer to them, they're thinking the same thing. Hey, we need to control this choke, but we also need to play proactive because if they use any CDs, we need to make sure that we're ready for it. Um, So I'll give a few scenarios as to what could happen. It depends on obviously the team, your reaction time and stuff like that and the positioning. So if they go for this side, you want your Zen again far away as possible. You want your Zarya close to your Ryan. It's kind of like the position you want. Kind of like a cross with the Zen kind of further back. So let's just say they're walking in and they use speed boost here. Now if I was the blue team, I wouldn't want to fight them with speed boost. So I'd kite back. I would kite back. Wait for the speed boost to just kind of like wear off a little bit. Not backing up all the way. Like as I said before, backing up is the worst decision ever. But the problem is if they use the CDs too early, you can abuse that. Because this is like what? I hate this thing. Oh my god. This is a choke here and this is a choke here. It might not look like a choke because there's access to the staircase, but it is a choke because you can funnel them into that spot. Um Yeah, if they use the speed boost too early, make sure that you actually have the reaction time and the like game sense to think, oh, they use speed boost, let's kite a little bit, we can wait for this, we can wait for this. Because without speed boost, they can't get access to the Reinhardt faster, they can't like surround him instantly, so you can abuse that. And then once they get into said the position that you want to fight from, like I should say the Reinhardt says as soon as they touch the choke, we're going to engage because they don't have the speed boost. We can fully engage on their Reinhardt with our abilities. Um, yeah, obviously then you would fire. It's like this is the thing. So Darius need to make sure that they know when the right time is to bubble. When you're on the defensive team and you're not the ones playing aggro, you need to use your bubbles reactively. But when obviously you're the attacking team or you want to be the attacker, you need to use your bubbles proactively. I tried to explain this to Ryan, my current off tank. But basically, like what I mean by reactively is if your Reinhardt gets stunned, that's a reactive call to bubble him. If he wants to play aggro, that's a proactive call. You have to wait until you know that he's going to get aggravation and then you bubble him. So in this circumstance, if we want to play aggressive here, as soon as your Reinhardt gets even close to their Reinhardt and their Brig starts walking forward, that's when you want to bubble him. If you have insane reaction time, you can maybe like bubble him as the Briggs goes for the stun, but that is a really risky play, and I'd rather you didn't. So I would rather you, if you want to play aggro, you go all in. That means what I mean by all in is everybody commits and everybody uses everything they have. That means bubble. That means speed boost. That means using the armor on a Reinhardt when he takes the first initial brunt of it. The only person who kind of doesn't like quote unquote all in is Zen. And this is the thing I want to talk about in terms of D.Va. So if the enemy team doesn't have Graviton, and let's just say red team used the Graviton last fight and they didn't get any value from it, what can the D.Va do from this position to be more beneficial in the fight? Because she can't really defense matrix Reinhardt, she can't defense matrix Brig, she can't defense matrix Zarya Beam. So what can she do? Once the fight starts, she can boost her onto the Zen. Because don't forget, Zen orbs are eaten, and also he's very squishy and he's immobile. So these are things that I think many teams don't necessarily come into like thinking about. But you can kind of treat D.Va as a Winston when the enemy team doesn't have Graviton. Um, Obviously, if they have Graviton, you want to have high priority on trying to kill and pressure the Zarya. So what I mean by that is controlling the chokes. Don't give them access to the choke. Um, and making sure that you play explosive when you see the Zarya, because if you give her an inch, she's going to take a mile, especially if your D.Va doesn't have defense matrix at the time. Also, another thing that you can do as a team is when your supports call, hey, they have Graviton, this is where you need to either do one of two things. You need to bait the Zarya ult, and what I mean by that is your D.Va could on purposely do something stupid. Like, this sounds really stupid, but I did this as like a quote unquote experiment to like test to see how we would react to this. So you'd play it standard, they grab you, right? And they haven't committed any resources beforehand, and you haven't committed any resources beforehand. So you have Transcendence, you have Zarya, and you have Reinhardt. Your Reinhardt is most likely going to get pinned or stunned. So what can you do? You can save your 2 Zarya bubbles for that D.Va bomb, and you have a more likely chance of surviving. You have a Rein shield that's probably going to get pinned. Then you have Zen Trance. Then you have 2 Zarya bubbles. You should, and you have Brig shield. Don't forget about that. The only person who really should be affected by this is maybe Lucio. But yeah, once the grab goes off, or the D.Va bomb goes off, you kind of have to take what you have left and try and fight with it, or just reset depending on the position that you're in. If you have like 99% on the point and they just grab wipe you, I would just suggest saving the ultimates that you have and going next. Because don't forget, they've probably committed grab, D.Va bomb, they probably have Shatter up next, and then you have like Shatter, grab, D.Va bomb, Brig, Lucio. So you only expended 1 ultimate for 2, which is fair. Yeah, this D.Va is wrong, by the way. In case you thought it was right. Don't position yourself away. Okay, so this is another thing that my team does this a lot too, which is kind of frustrating. Is whenever your Reinhardt needs to be super communicative as to when to go forward, and when he should be like holding the choke and not going any further. I wouldn't advise him saying go back, unless, as I said, they use the speed boost incorrectly. Because if you go backwards whilst using CDs, you're probably going to lose. What I mean by this is Reinhardt needs to communicate when he's going forward, like when he's pressuring the enemy team, and when he's going backwards because he needs to either heal up or it's not worth chasing. Because a lot of the time, this is what happens. Reinhardt pushes forward, he kind of goes like, oh, I don't want this, doesn't communicate that. Your Zarya and D.Va still go ham, and your Brig, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, 3 people are down, and your Reinhardt goes, I blocked it. Which, he blocked it, but 3 people ran past the Rein shield because the Reinhardt didn't communicate to back off. So obviously that's the thing you need to take in consideration too. As for the roles and responsibilities of like the team itself, as I said in my other video, Reinhardt is mostly like the macro stuff, like calling when to go forward, calling when to go back, calling the rotations of the team because he's the front line. And other basic macro stuff that Reinhardt normally does in every composition. Zarya is kind of like the communicating, like when she's going to use grab, when she's going to use bubble, when she wants to stun on the D.Va for the grab, and so on and so forth, like the basic stuff that Zarya communicates. I would say in terms of target focus, it should be Reinhardt first, then Zarya. The reason why you go Reinhardt first and then Zarya is because I like to do it in DPS order, like who has the highest DPS, so that everyone could follow that highest DPS target, and also the lowest mobility. Um, Reinhardt is at the front line. He has the highest DPS. That counts as two two things. So he is therefore the target caller, initial target caller. He's at the front line, and then Zarya because she has the second highest DPS and she has the lowest mobility. The factoring in all of that, like you have a Zen, you have a Lucio, you have a Brig, they don't have amazing mobility. Or Lucio does, but you know what I mean in terms of like boosters and stuff. I don't like having D.Va as the secondary target caller because again she doesn't have the highest DPS. And she has high mobility, so she might say, "Hey, focus Zen, fly halfway across the map," and then your team's useless because they can't follow up. Um, Brig should be communicating stuns and when she wants to play aggressive to stun, or if she counter stuns. What I mean by counter stuns is obviously if their Brig goes in for a stun and we bubble it, and our Brig can stun as well, that is in like a good call to make because obviously we can then follow up on it. Whereas if you just do it silently, maybe the team isn't ready for that counter pin, counter stun, and we don't get the value from it. Um, Another thing, in terms of D.Va's communication, she should be like, okay, I'm scouting where they're going, trying to play safe with the scouting, not like overextending or anything like that. So maybe like here's a good scouting point because it's the furthest point away from the normal staircase, and I don't see many Ghost teams going this way because of the boop and because they're like so immobile about speed boost. So just scout which way they're going, higher, upper, lower, whatever the case may be. And then once you call that, you need to like kind of stand in between the two so that you can see if they come through this way, through upper, lower. Um, and then obviously go back to your team. Lucio's callouts are basically micro stuff. What I mean by micro stuff is like ultimates, things that we can do in this fight, i.e., if we have Shatter, we have Grav, and we have Diva Bomb, he can be like, okay, we're going to use Shatter this fight, and if all else fails, we'll use Grav afterwards if we don't get any value from this. Um, and then he can maybe like remind certain people about their role, about what they want them to do. I.e., if this fails, we want this stun on the diva, or we need a communication to stun the diva, not just like YOLO throwing them. Because like in this meta, it's obviously about like not YOLOing anything, making sure that you have the macro play and the micro play to actually get value from ultimates. Because a lot of the time Reinhardt's will just like randomly shatter and they get no value. Grabs will also randomly be shot and they'll get value because he's been eaten. Um, but yeah, and then Zen's basically communication is this Discord. I have trance or what I'm gonna. Oh yes, another thing for Lucio. Sorry, Lucio should be communicating what he's using his transcendence for quotation because. Okay, so let's just say, for example, he walks in and says, I'm going to use sound barrier if they shatter us. So he needs to position differently away from the team, like in a kind of like what you would do with Sombra, but not outside of LOS, because he still needs a speed boost, but he needs to change his position so that if we do get stun bashed, so he can like, there's a wall here, right? He can just stand there, and like if the team wants to go aggressive, he's still there, but if the team needs to play defensive, he is also still there for the sound barrier. So if we get stun shattered, he can then sound barrier. So it's all about pre-setting up what you want to do with your ultimates as a support and making sure that you get full use of it. So another thing is what you can communicate is I'm going to sound barrier if they earth shatter, but if I get knocked down, I'm going to call it so we can trance instead. Um, there's a risk and there's also a reward from that. The reward is you're probably going to survive the earth shatter unless the squishy gets pinned, which is only Brig in this scenario. But the problem is you're going to give up the survivability in the Grav Diva Bomb, so they might follow up with that. And then you need to know whether you want to fight it or whether you want to like just take the L, depending if you have Zarya bubbles at that time, which you probably won't do because you're trying to protect the Reinhardt from the stun shatter. Um, yeah, it's kind of the same situation with Zen. Like he just calls discords, he calls where he's going to transcendence, when he's going to transcendence, like the scenarios in which he would transcendence. If he wants to play proactive, he's like, okay, I'm gonna trance in, boys. Let's go. And then obviously we could fight around that. I like doing the proactive plays with sound barriers and transcendences if we don't have any ultimates. and we want to try and force a lot of theirs so that the next fight is a little bit cleaner. Um, so that's basically what I have, to be honest. I hope this is a little bit more interactive and a little bit more less Resident Sleeper, and explained a little bit more things better than what my last video did. Because talking to the screen and not really doing anything was kind of I could see why it was boring and wasn't really informational. Um, but yeah, hope this helped. If you want to see any more like how to play goats on certain maps, uh, let me know. I'll do that as well. I'm gonna start doing more like floats and a new composition sort of videos because I feel like everyone knows how to play goats by now. Uh, hopefully. Been around for so long. So hopefully I can do more different videos rather than just four-heading goats over and over again. Alright guys, see you next time.